I just want to talk a little bit about the physicality of the league. There's so much conversation about it. Is it too physical? Is it not? All these things. And I think there's been this narrative that's gone around that we as WNBA players talk about the physicality in our league like a badge of honor, right? And I don't think that's the case at all.
What if the fiercest opponent on Caitlin Clark's court wasn't the player guarding her, but an entire league's worth of physical schemes designed to throw her off her rhythm? That's exactly the explosive claim four-time WNBA champion Sue Bird leveled on her own Bird's Eye View podcast.
Hey, before we get into the video, be sure to enter our brand new giveaway. We'll be giving away any of these items. It's your choice. To enter the giveaway, leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, turn on notifications, and most importantly, watch the whole video. It's that simple.
In a June 27th episode, Bird revealed that multiple teams have been instructed to pick her up full court, keep hands on her at all times, and clearly make a concerted effort to be physical with her as a deliberate plan to slow down the rookie phenom. This revelation didn't come from anonymous whispers or social media conjecture. It came straight from a legend whose portfolio includes 4 WNBA rings and 13 All-Star nods. Bird, recalling a recent game where Clark was shoved to the floor by Connecticut Sun veteran Marina Mabrey, challenged the notion that WNBA physicality is merely part of the job description. We as WNBA players talk about the physicality of our league with like a badge of honor, Bird said. I don't think that's the case at all. When the refs do ref the game and allow physicality, we're kind of just playing in it. And of course, what refs allow, you're going to take. Behind those words lies a mounting dossier of bruising encounters. On June 17th, J.C. Sheldon of the Sun poked Clark in the eye, an action later upgraded to a flagrant foul. Then Marina Mabrey drove her to the court in a post-whistle collision that ignited a bench-clearing skirmish. Clark walked away with a technical foul for her reaction, while Sheldon escaped suspension, a disparity that left fans and former coaches sputtering for answers. As social justice warriors of sport and casual viewers alike shared side-by-side clips online, the question on every fan's lips became, when does aggressive defense cross into unfair targeting? Sue Bird didn't stop at simply airing grievances. She issued a clarion call for accountability.
While it's true that we have defended the physicality, it's not true that it's because we want it to be that way or like it that way. I think for a really long time, it's something we've talked about. Most players don't want it to be this physical. I was the first one with my hand up when I was playing. Do you think I wanted it to be physical? Then you've never seen me play.
Bird argued that if referees continue to let hard hits slide, the league effectively condones an anything-goes environment that penalizes finesse and shooting artistry. Her comments have since rippled through WNBA offices and locker rooms, prompting former Iowa coach Lisa Blutter to join the chorus. Blutter publicly urged the WNBA to tighten enforcement on hand-checking and off-ball grabbing, even suggesting ejections for egregious infractions and heavier fines to deter would-be assaulters.
By my math, by giving every player on a roster that one extra personal foul, you're allowing your best player to get fouled technically 11 more times a game than needed. That's just my take.
The data backs up Bird's alarm. Over the first 6 weeks of the season, Clark endured 24 hard fouls, the most any rookie has suffered in a comparable span in league history. That tally includes 5 flagrant revisions, 3 technical fouls assessed despite camera evidence showing Clark as the sparks of reaction rather than the source of provocation, and a 30% spike in off-ball contact compared to league average. Teams are clearly testing limits to see how much they can get away with before a whistle blows, an experiment that leaves a marksman like Clark scrambling to adjust her shot mechanics on the fly. More than reputation or swagger is at stake. Clark's unprecedented viewership draw, which was over 2 million tuning in for her debut and draft coverage, peaking at over 3 million, has already rewritten the WNBA's broadcast narrative. Every bruising board and scare tactic screen, therefore, risks not only her health but the league's burgeoning momentum. If fans perceive an unfair double standard where veterans toy with her safety while she pays in fouls and turnovers, they may conclude the league values spectacle over spectacle maker. So here we stand at a crossroads. Legends like Sue Bird are sounding alarms. Coaches like Lisa Blutter are demanding overhaul. Even the officiating chiefs, are under pressure to clarify hand check rules and recalibrate what constitutes defensive freedom versus reckless endangerment. Will the WNBA heed these calls and rewrite its rulebook to protect its brightest star? Or will it allow the physical campaign against Clark to proceed, betting that controversy alone can sustain the spotlight? As the buzzer sounded on Bird's fiery podcast episode, one thing became clear. A rule change isn't just looming, it may be the league's only path to preserving both player integrity and the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. When Sue Bird's indictment of the league's physical tactics reverberated through sports media, WNBA headquarters found itself under an unprecedented spotlight. Within 24 hours of her bird's eye view remarks, ABC News aired Bird's full statement, driving home that this wasn't locker room banter, but a call to action from one of the game's greatest voices.
Racism has been impacting the WNBA well before this year. In that way, I do think Caitlin's being used as a pawn. Caitlin didn't bring racism to the WNBA. This has been happening. And that, I think, is what's been such a shock for all of us, that other people are surprised by this. I would have been loved to have been spoken about just for my play.
League Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, often measured in public, pivoted swiftly. In an interview with the Washington Post, she acknowledged ongoing evaluations and training for referees and stressed that players' safety and consistent officiating were non-negotiable as the WNBA expands its audience and revenue streams. Rather than deny the issue, Engelbert announced the formation of a joint officiating task force, drawing veterans like current Fever coach Stephanie White alongside high-profile referees to review standards, tighten enforcement of off-ball contact, and explore tougher penalties for flagrant fouls. Even analysts weighed in during their WNBA segment, unpacking slow-motion replays of late whistles and contested calls that seem to favor hard-nosed veterans over finesse-focused rookies.
There's a lot. I mean, is that displacement? I think it is.
Oh, and Marina Mabry's going to get ejected. If the officials saw that, Marina Mabry is going to get ejected.
Well, they're going to go and look at it. Look at Mabry. She's got a scar on one side, scratch.
On air, commentators broke down the June 17th Connecticut Sun Fever brawl, which resulted in 5 technicals, 3 ejections, 2 upgraded flagrants. They questioned why J.C. Sheldon's eye poke resulted in a flagrant, while Clark's instinctive reaction drew a technical. That debate spilled onto social media, where side-by-side clips garnered millions of views and amplified calls for the league to spell out what constitutes basketball-focused contact versus roughhousing worthy of ejection. Amid the officiating firestorm, voices from the coaching fraternity joined the chorus. Former Iowa coach Lisa Blutter, no stranger to defending her former star, outlined a clear prescription: harsher fines and automatic review for any off-ball grabbing or sustained hand-checking meant to impede shooters like Clark. If we want less of this, we have to change how the game is called, Blutter asserted on TMZ Sports, urging the WNBA to adopt penalties forcing teams to rethink physical schemes rather than accept them as just part of the rules right now.
Caitlin Clark has been getting beat down this year. She has been the center of national attention for going on 24, if not 36 months straight. Slick, eventually this has to take a hold, not just on your physical body, on your emotional body as well. You've been watching the WNBA. You've been watching women's basketball. You have a daughter who's currently playing college basketball.
Blutter's intervention carried extra weight because it came on the heels of a Sports Illustrated investigation showing Clark suffered more hard fouls in her first 6 weeks than any rookie in league history. 24 borderline flagrant incidents, 5 upgraded after review, and a 30% increase in off-ball contact over the league average. Coaches from Atlanta to Seattle echoed similar concerns privately, warning that unchecked aggression could tarnish the league's hard-won momentum and discourage the high IQ, perimeter-oriented style fans have come to celebrate. Faced with mounting pressure, Engelbert's task force has signaled that draft night rule changes are on the table, possibly redefining hand-checking limits, boosting fine structures, and even experimenting with ejection thresholds designed to protect sharpshooters. But as referees prepare for retraining sessions and coaches sharpen their playbooks, one question looms. Can policy tweaks alone stem a physical tide that veteran squads have long used as a competitive equalizer? As league officials and coaches hammer out the next rulebook draft, a broader contest is taking shape, one that will test not only refereeing reforms, but the very balance between contact and creativity that defines the modern W.
So Sue Bird has been speaking out a bunch lately, bro. Which she always speak out, but it seems like she's speaking out a little more than usual, bro. So she spoke about the physicality of the league. Now we know the league is very physical.
When words travel faster than a fast break, the real story isn't just in the highlights. It's in the echo. Within hours of her on-air admonition, the ripple reached every locker room and living room where women's basketball lives and breathes. Suddenly, veteran players who had once viewed physicality as part of the craft were asking if they'd gone too far, and if the league itself had lost sight of what makes the game beautiful. The first volley came from a surprising corner, a reflection on her own words. "I started that narrative," Bird admitted, looking back on a preseason interview where she and a fellow legend warned that jealousy could be the subtext of every mid-range jumper and no-look dime. It wasn't supposed to be the headline. It was meant as context for Clark's adjustment to professional speed. Instead, it morphed into a mantra, petty, jealous, rookies versus veterans, and set the stage for this showdown. That framing ignited a groundswell of reaction. On a later appearance, Clark herself leaned in, voice low but eyes fierce. "If people think we're out there just trying to prove something against each other, they're missing the point entirely. We're teammates in growing this league, not opponents in some grudge match." Her words, delivered without friction or flourish, cut through speculation like a laser-guided drive.
Please welcome to the show, Caitlin Clark. Caitlin, did you ever
What's
think
up,
you'd
guys?
be back? Cheers.
Excited to be
Cheers.
back. Don't worry. I got this nice throwback Gatorade can.
Well played.
That moment underscored a truth too many had overlooked. When the scrutiny narrows in on one player, it distorts the full picture of the league. Behind Clark's poise, she felt a mounting burden. Not just to hit threes, but to defuse a narrative that painted her as a flashpoint for jealousy, aggression, and distrust. "They want headlines," she said, "but we want hoops and respect for everyone who plays them." Emboldened by Clark's candor, several teammates stepped forward in solidarity. One veteran proclaimed, "We can't let brilliance be punished for bringing eyes to the W." There's a line between hard defense and outright ferocity, and it's our job to protect that line. Another echoed, "If this was about toughness, we'd be celebrating the physicality. Yet here we are, debating whether it's fair or foul." Their voices converged into a unified demand. The league's narrative must shift from rookie under siege to league growing together.
All right, you guys, we need to talk. I just finished the Indiana Fever versus Connecticut Sun game. That was a wild one. That was so unexpected. We were in the first half. We were yawning. We were like, oh, this game is boring. It's not good basketball. Then all of a sudden, everything got spicy. Everything got negative. We need to talk about it.
With veterans, rookies, and Bird herself aligned around a common cause, the union stepped in. A formal statement called for clarity in the rulebook, define excessive contact, mandate transparent review processes, and ensure that referees are empowered, not hamstrung, by guidance that protects playmakers without sanitizing the game. It wasn't about coddling anyone. It was about preserving the competitive spirit that had made the WNBA a world-class spectacle. As fans debate group chats and social feeds overflow with side-by-side comparisons, one thing is clear. The conversation has moved beyond who's winning on the court to how do we win for the game itself. The players have drawn their line in chalk. The next play belongs to the rule makers. But as arguments swirl about fines, techs, and ejection thresholds, the real question remains. Can a league built on toughness also protect its brightest stars without dimming the edge that makes the W so irresistible?
So have any of you guys seen the clip from the podcast about Christine Brennan? This book is going to be crazy. I mean this when I say this. This book is going to be absolutely crazy. And the WNBA tried to get Christine Brennan banned.
The league recently announced an audacious expansion plan, adding 3 new franchises in Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia by 2030, vaulting the total to 18 teams. Driven by Caitlin Clark's unprecedented viewership surge, from 2.45 million viewers for the draft to record ABC and ESPN numbers in her rookie season, Commissioner Engelbert cast the move as more than growth, calling it a generational moment for women's basketball. Amid the fanfare, Clark herself weighed in on the expansion conversation. Kansas City would be a good spot for it, she said in a mid-season interview. But I'm just here to play. You'd have to ask the commissioner about that. Even if she deferred on decision-making, her mere mention of markets underscored the gravity of her impact. Cities see her name and envision packed arenas, soaring jersey sales, and local economies buzzing.
New news that we get to kick off this headline with. They just announced there's going to be a record expansion with teams in Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia. I was a little bummed to not see Nashville on that list, and there are other cities that weren't there, but the league is planning to grow to 18 teams. Cleveland will be in 2028, Detroit in 2029, and Philly in 2030.
But expansion alone can't paper over underlying tensions. Just days after the Commissioner's Cup final, Clark publicly criticized the stark pay disparity. $45,000 per player for winning the Cup versus $20,000 for a WNBA championship, calling it hard to swallow when you see what's at stake. That post-game Instagram live sparked a sponsor backlash. Major brands threatened to pull ad dollars unless the league addressed compensation equity, while smaller partners openly skittished league leadership for overlooking player welfare. Meanwhile, the players' union and league negotiators found themselves on a collision course. The WNBA opted out of the existing CBA last October, and by July 2025, the union's lead negotiator, Sada Sabali, denounced the league's initial CBA proposal as a slap in the face. With the current contract set to expire and a new $2.2 billion media rights deal kicking in next season, the stakes couldn't be higher. Players are pressing for expanded revenue shares, clearer officiating protocols, and guaranteed timelines for rule amendments born from Bird's expose. Inside league offices, strategy memos pivoted from pure damage control to a dual-track approach. Fast-track rule clarifications on physical contact, while fast-tracking expansion and media partnerships to lock in financial windfalls. One confidential memo recommended launching a Clark Impact marketing arm to package her story alongside franchise launches, an initiative aimed at converting her hype into sustainable fan bases in new cities. At the same time, another brief urged caution. If rule changes bow too heavily to pressure, traditionalists fear the WNBA could lose the polished physicality that underpins its identity. Fans and analysts now watch every move on and off the court. Will the league balance its runaway growth with equitable treatment for its marquee talent? Can expansion and new broadcast revenues coexist with the foundational task of fair officiating and fair pay? As teams prepare to break ground on arenas in Cleveland and Detroit, and as union talks prepare to heat up during the All-Star break, the WNBA finds itself at a crossroads. The Caitlin Clark era has delivered its biggest boon, unprecedented popularity and profit, but it has also exposed fault lines in governance, compensation, and competitive integrity. The next chapter will hinge on whether the WNBA can channel Clark's revolutionary impact into lasting structural reform, or whether controversy on court and in the courtroom will overshadow the promise of a true league renaissance. In the wake of Sue Bird's public call for better protection of perimeter players, the league took its first concrete step by announcing an officiating review task force. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert explained that this group, which is composed of veteran coaches, former referees, and league executives, will conduct a thorough audit of hand-checking, off-ball grabbing, and flagrant foul standards before any rule changes are proposed. Rather than an instant in-season overhaul, Engelbert emphasized that consistency and transparency are the objectives, and that any recommendations must pass through the Competition Committee and Board of Governors. Throughout the summer, the task force will analyze game footage from Clark's rookie season alongside benchmark veteran matchups, looking for patterns of uneven enforcement. Their findings will inform proposed rule clarifications to be voted on at the annual competition rules meeting in October. In her public remarks, Engelbert repeated that players' safety and competitive integrity go hand in hand, but stressed that the league cannot compromise the flow of the game by over-penalizing incidental contact. The emphasis, she said, is on clear guidelines. Defenders may contest shots and battle on screens, but sustained hand placement and late whacks across the elbow must be penalized. Meanwhile, off the court, negotiations over the next collective bargaining agreement have reached a critical phase. After the Players Association opted out of the existing CBA last October, union leaders have voiced frustration with the league's initial proposal. Reports indicate that roughly 80% of players will become free agents after the 2025 season, giving them significant leverage in talks. Phoenix Mercury forward Sado Sabali publicly called the opening offer a slap in the face, demanding greater revenue sharing, stronger health and safety protections, and clearer enforcement protocols for officiating grievances in YPost.com. The timing of the CBA talks and the officiating review adds urgency. A new 11-year, $2.2 billion media rights deal is slated to begin next season, and expansion fees are set to inject an additional $250 million into league coffers. Player representatives warned that without a fair CBA and enforceable officiating rules, the WNBA risks a labor dispute that could overshadow the historic growth fueled by stars like Clark. The union has scheduled in-person negotiation sessions during the upcoming All-Star break, and some insiders suggest the threat of a work stoppage is real if talks falter. As fans digest every update, whether it's a task force directive or a union press release, the question is no longer about who wins on the court. It's whether the WNBA's governance structures can keep pace with its rapid rise in popularity and revenue. Will rule clarifications and a new CBA deliver the stability and fairness that Bird demanded? Or will unresolved tensions between players, owners, and officials spur fresh controversy just as the league approaches its most transformative era? As the season reaches its climax, the ripple effects of Caitlin Clark's rookie year and Sue Bird's relentless spotlight on fairness have reshaped every layer of the WNBA. We've seen referees reevaluate every hand on the hip, coaches retool game plans, executives scramble through boardroom gambits, and players rally behind a singular cause: protect the integrity of the game that made them. What began as one Legends Candid podcast moment has become a movement, forcing the league to confront its own growing pains in real time. Clark's impact goes beyond dazzling shot charts and smashed viewership records. It's an inflection point that exposed deep tensions between tradition and transformation. The officiating review task force will deliberate for months. The CBA negotiations will test owner-player relations, and the expansion carts are already being loaded for new arenas. Yet through it all, the question hangs in the air. Can a league defined by physical grit also foster an environment where artistry thrives without compromise? The answer rests on choices yet to be made. Will the WNBA embrace swift transparency, cementing rule clarifications and equitable pay as cornerstones of its new identity? Or will it stumble under the weight of conflicting interests, diluting the very momentum that Clark and Bird ignited? In the end, the story of this season will be remembered not just for the points and fouls, but for the cultural reckoning it sparked. What does the future hold for a league at this crossroads? Is this the moment the WNBA truly steps into its own, or merely a prelude to the next controversy? Leave your thoughts below. Hit like if you believe the W can lead this revolution, and don't forget to subscribe for every breaking update on Caitlin Clark and the future of women's basketball.